Hello.
Hello, is this Kevin Sorbo?
It is Kevin Sorbo.
Kevin, this is Dustin Wilmus from KMSU Radio. How you doing?
Great. How you doing?
I'm excellent. It's great to be talking with you today.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
I know you're appearing at the Wizard World Comic-Con here in Minneapolis coming up on May 1st through the 3rd. And I know you're from these parts, so, are you looking forward to it, I'm sure? And have you done a lot of these in the past, these kind of conventions?
Yeah, I get invited because, Hercules and Andromeda, it's 12 years of 2 TV series that went around the world, and they're still out there everywhere. Netflix has Hercules reruns constantly, so it's like a whole new show to a lot of younger, the younger generation that never saw it, and fans still watch it. So I get invited to probably about, I would say, 50 or 60 Comic-Cons around the world a year, so I pick out about 5 or 6.
Wow.
And, to get a chance to get back home to Minnesota. I come back every summer anyway for a couple of weeks. I also attend the Starkey Hearing Foundation up there in St. Paul, and I also, the same 2-week period, they have the 3M Championship up there in Blaine, and I'm kind of a keen golfer, so I've been coming up to about 7-8 years I've golfed in that event, which is always great fun. So I come back whenever I can.
Well, and I've read, too, you're appearing in a new Con TV film. Is that out yet, or what can we expect from that?
Actually, 2 of them are out right now. Yeah, the Confessions of a Prodigal Son is out, and I think it's out on DVD as well, along with Mythica, The Dark Spore. Mythica is a trilogy, and we've shot all 3 movies already up in outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, and they're it's right in that vein of wizards and warlocks and creatures, sort of just like Lord of the Rings. And the first one is out on Con TV right now.
Excellent. And, as I mentioned, you grew up here in Minnesota. I know you went to college in Moorhead. And, obviously when people think of the Midwest, they don't think the glitz and glamour like you would maybe out in L.A. So how did that lead to an acting career from being, from the Midwest leading out to Hollywood?
I got the bug early. I went to the Guthrie Theater in 5th grade. There was a school trip there, and it was Shakespeare, The Merchant of Venice. I didn't understand what the heck they were saying up on stage, but I was just mesmerized by the whole thing. And I think a lot of it had to do with my mom, too, watching a lot of old movies with her, and also my dad, the old Humphrey Bogart and Spencer Tracy and Cary Grant and all those old, black and white movies. And I just was sort of just taken by it all. Then along came Robert Redford and Paul Newman when I was a kid, and that sort of sold it for me. I wanted to do what they were doing.
Well, I know you did a lot of, guest spots on TV shows and that sort of thing early on in your career. And then obviously, as you mentioned, Hercules, known around the world. Was that just another, kind of TV show when you first got that role?
Well, initially it was going to be 5 2-hour movies. I was part of this thing called the Action Pack at Universal Studios. What they wanted to do is sort of bring back those shows back in the 70s when they had McCloud and McMillan and Wife and Columbo, when they rotated those guys, and every Wednesday it was a different sort of like miniature. It wasn't really, I think those were just hour shows. I don't think they did movies with it, but they wanted to sort of do that again, and we were one of 5 different shows they were doing, and we were the only ones that did really successful, did really well in the movies, and they went straight into a series. And darn if this thing didn't go on for 7 years and become, passing Baywatch, we became the most watched TV show in the world, so that was pretty cool.
Did you imagine that it would be as successful as it was, or did it just seem kind of like another job at the time?
No, we knew we had something good during the movies. It was like during the 3rd movie when we were shooting, talking to the other producers that were down there in New Zealand, where I lived in New Zealand 7 years where we shot it, and, I said, there's no way they're not going to make this TV series. We just all had a feeling. For it to become as big as it did was pretty impressive. They actually wanted to go another 3 seasons, 8, 9, and 10 seasons with it, but then I got this offer to do Andromeda, and I'm a huge Gene Roddenberry Star Trek fan, the original series, and Andromeda was the first show we ever created after Star Trek. So Captain Dylan Hunt, the character I portrayed, was the first captain ever created after Captain Kirk, and we had a nice 5-year run with that, and can't complain. It was really cool to be part of something like that. And the last 10 years I've shot about 45 movies, so I've been staying very busy, and I had the #1 independent movie last year called God's Not Dead. So I thank all the fans out there who went to see that movie. You guys made a $2 million movie into a $100 million monster. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely awesome. Things have been working out so well. And, you mentioned some of these roles that you've had, Hercules and Andromeda, and kind of these roles that would, seem like you would do a lot of stunts or, have to learn how to wield a sword and that sort of thing. I mean, did you do a lot of that stuff yourself?
Oh, yeah. We did. Michael Hurst, who played my sidekick, Eolus, in the show, we without exaggerating, we easily did 90% of our own stunts. I grew up an athlete playing football, basketball, baseball, and my ego said I could do it, whether I could or not. And I certainly got some cuts and bumps and bruises and stitches to prove that wasn't always successful, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, to me that was part of the fun of the show, as well as the humor that they put in there and the mythology. And the fans have been great. Like I said, every time I go to these cons, it's just not only do you get the fans that say they grew up with the show, but now you get these 12-year-old kids because of Netflix and because of Encore and Hub Cable, which airs it quite regularly as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to get your thoughts. This is something that, happens sometimes, but not that often. The Xena show, a spinoff from Hercules, was also, a huge hit in itself. What are your thoughts on that, how that kind of came about?
Well, it was, I mentioned the 5 2-hour movies earlier that everybody was doing in the other 5 shows, and they canceled all 4 of those. So they had a slot open up, and at the end of season 2, the producers came up with the idea of why don't we do sort of like a female Hercules, not make her, half god like Hercules was, just make her this crazy, sort of fighting woman. And so we introduced a 3-show arc at the end of season 2, that character, and they loved it enough that they hit into it. And, but we also had a 5th year. Xena was a 3rd-year spin-off, but our 5th-year spin-off was Young Hercules, which got canceled after 2 years, but it was the teenage years of Hercules, and the kid portraying me as a teenager was a 20-year-old Ryan Gosling. So wow. He's gone on to do quite a few things since then. But and then you have you look at shows like that, and that really kicks off the idea for other people to copy them, and that's kind of normal. When anything hits in Hollywood, they all copy and make more of them. And so you look at because of the success of Hercules, you had Sinbad and Conan and Robin Hood and Tarzan and Xena and all these other shows that sort of try to copy that success. And you got to take that as a form of flattery, I guess.
So that is how you see it then, kind of a flattery and not maybe some animosity that they're kind of, I don't want to say leeching off of your success, but kind of, using that as a springboard?
Yeah, but, like I said, but Hollywood does it with everything. They do it with movies as well. If a disaster movie works, and the other studios will do their own disaster movie very, very quickly. I think that's just, there's nothing really new in Hollywood. Everything is just sort of borrowed and regurgitated, and you just hopefully come up with writers that are a little more creative and special effects that just get better and better. So I think that's just sort of the way it is.
Sure. Well, you're one of the few guys that have been real successful in TV, and you mentioned 45-some films as well. Is there one that you prefer over the other, or is it just all kind of work for you?
It's just there's probably 5 or 6 of those movies I wish I wouldn't have done because maybe it read good on paper, but once they got together, the chemistry just wasn't there, and the movie just sucked basically. And there's not much you can really do about that. But I've done some of these faith-based movies I'm very proud of. As I mentioned, God's Not Dead. I highly recommend it for people that love family-type movies. And What If is another movie I'm very proud of. I've got a kind of a wacky one opening in a couple months called Julia X, which is the total opposite side of the spectrum, where I played a serial killer. So to me, it's interesting to just I read scripts, and if they strike my fancy, then I just say yes to them. And you don't always hit a good one, but for the most part, I've been very fortunate with my career.
Yeah, that's awesome for sure. It sounds like you have a lot of stuff coming up. Are there any other projects you want to mention, or maybe anything we should be looking out for?
Yeah, I've got right now on Con TV. They can CON TV. People go check that out. I've got 2 movies that just came out. One's called Confessions of a Prodigal Son. The other one is called Mythica: The Dark Spore. Mythica is a 3-part trilogy in that vein of Lord of the Rings. And I've got, Hope Bridge opens in the summertime. Hope Bridge deals with teen suicide. It's a heavy drama. It'll be in theaters. The Secret Handshake's coming out in theaters as well. It'll be out probably in July. That one is written and directed by Howie Klausner, and Howie's best known for his writing of Space Cowboys, which is out years ago with Tommy Lee Jones and Clint Eastwood and James Garner. Wonderful movie there. And I've got, about 5 other movies booked up, and
wow,
for this year, along with a new TV series. So I'm very fortunate. I'd like to keep myself busy.
Excellent. And again, you're going to be at the Wizard World Comic-Con here in Minneapolis, May 1st through the 3rd, and people have the chance to come up and say hello. They can get autographs and photos. Is there anything else, that they can
we might show a screening of one of my movies as well. That'll be listed later. But, it's at the Minneapolis Convention Center, like as you mentioned, May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And it's just, you know what it is? It's just like a pop culture festival. You know, it's movies and television, and a lot of different stars will be there. People can see their favorite stars. I hope people stop by. I'm a hometown boy, so I hope people stop by and say hey to me while I'm there. It's always fun to get back to Minnesota, and I miss it for 3 seasons of the year. Winters you guys can keep. I don't miss the winters any longer. So, but I do miss the spring, summers, and falls. No question about that. And I'm still a Minnesota boy through and through. I follow the Vikings and the Twins and the Wild with passion here in California.
Awesome. Well, again, Kevin, it's been great having you on. Thanks so much for being on with me today.
All right, cool. Appreciate your time.
All right. Looking forward to the Comic-Con.
All right, thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.